last video, I made an introduction to human anatomy and physiology. We talked about anatomy, levels of organization, physiology, and functions. Today we will continue this introduction and talk about directional terms, planes, body cavities, and serous membranes. Directional terms. It is important to know that all the directional terms that are used in medicine have as a point of reference the anatomical position of the body. This is a vertical position, that is, the body is standing upright with gaze forward, feet close together, upper limbs next to the body, palms forward, and shelves facing outwards. Having this position as a reference point, we can describe the front part of the body as interior or ventral, the back part of the body as posterior or dorsal, the top part of the body as superior or cranial, and the bottom part of the body as inferior or caudal. The term caudal comes from the existence of a tail, but is not used in human anatomy for obvious reasons. We describe the midline part of the body, that is, the part that is closer to the midline of the body, as medial. When referring to a point far from the midline of the body, we call it lateral. When we talk about two points both on the same side of the body, we say that one is ipsilateral to the other. If two points are on opposite sides of the body, we say that one is contralateral to the other. For example, the left hand is contralateral to the right hand. Also, the left leg is ipsilateral to the left hand. When we talk about a point closer to the place of attachment of an extremity to a structure, we say that this is a proximal point. When this point is further from the place of attachment of an extremity to a structure, we say that this is a distal point. For example, we know that in the structure of the nephron, there is a proximal convoluted tubule and a distal convoluted tubule. Basically, the proximal convoluted tubule is closer to the glomerulus, and the distal convoluted tubule is further away from the glomerulus, the glomerulus being the structure that I was referring to earlier. When we talk about a point that is towards the surface of the body, we say that it is superficial. When it is far from the surface of the body, we say that it is deep. Planes. There are three main planes in the body: the sagittal, frontal, or transverse plane. The sagittal plane is a vertical, and it divides the body into a right and left side. It can be called medial sagittal when it divides the body into two equal halves, and parasagittal when it divides the body into two unequal halves. The frontal plane is also called coronal, and it divides the body into an anterior or a posterior part. The transverse plane is horizontal, and it divides the body into an upper and lower part. Next, we will talk about cavities. The body has two main cavities, one posterior and one anterior. The posterior one is called the cranial cavity and covers the brain and the spinal canal, which covers the spinal cord. The anterior cavity is made up of the thoracic cavity, bounded by the ribs, and the abdominopelvic cavity, which is also called peritoneal. The thoracic cavity consists of the pleural cavity and the pericardial cavity. The pleural cavity can be left or right, each covering one lung. The pericardial cavity is located medially to the pleural cavity in the mediastinum. This is a region that contains all the components of the thoracic cavity except for the lungs. The pericardial cavity is located between the sheaths of the pericardium. The abdominopelvic cavity is separated from the thoracic cavity through the diaphragm and has several regions: an epigastric one that contains the left and right hypochondrium in the sides of the abdomen, an umbilical one that contains left and right flanks also in the sides of the abdomen below the hypochondria, and the hypogastric one that has two left and right inguinal regions, which are also called iliac regions, and are located under the flanks. The abdominal pelvic cavity contains four quadrants: upper left and right, lower left and right. Serous membranes. In the body, we have three serous membranes: the pleura, the pericardium, and the peritoneum. The peritoneum envelops the peritoneal organs and covers the anterior face of the retroperitoneal organs. The pericardium is between the leaflets of the heart, and the pleura is between the leaflets of the lungs. The leaflets can be parietal or visceral. The parietal leaflet is superficial and the visceral one is deep. The space between the sheets is called a cavity. So, we can say that we have three such cavities in the body: pericardial, pleural, and peritoneal. That being said, we have reached the end of this video. I would like to know what you thought about this video. If you liked it, don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Have a nice week!